Welcome to Zika Examinations Answering Techniques for D7 Principles of Management. I'm your presenter, Choto Siame. Let's look at the introduction of this course, Principles of Management. Principles of Management is designed to expose students to a variety of concepts presented within the framework of management, business, and organizational functions. The effective management of work of employees is the backbone of industrialized societies. This course will expose students to the theories, skills, and application of management. The main objective of this presentation is to help students with both the technique and practice. Effective examination preparation techniques involves preparing thoroughly, knowing the subject content, and managing pre-exam anxiety and stress. Remembering some important techniques highlighted in this presentation while sitting for the exam can make all the difference between passing or failing. What are the course objectives of this course? On successful completion of this course, students should be able to identify the different types of organization and key stakeholders, explain how the strategic position of the organization is evaluated, explain how the organization can be designed and structured for success, and finally discuss the role of managers and the theories of management. I'm continuing with the objectives, the learning outcomes. You will be required to discuss leadership theories, styles, and issues, explain the different theories of motivation, explain the role of change management in implementing corporate strategy, explain the importance of the recruitment process, training, development, and evaluation of employees, describe the specific challenges faced in managing a public sector organization. Okay. What are some of the competencies expected of students? Students must review the study manual and revision kit again in order to familiarize themselves with the contents of this course. This means that students must study and cover the whole syllabus, ensuring that they read widely and develop competencies as follows. The first being demonstrating competence in knowledge. Present the right answer to the question attempted. Understand the question correctly and present the correct answer. The examiner should not be left to second guess what the student probably meant. This usually results in an examiner having to read and reread students' examination scripts because they are trying to figure out what does the student mean? What are they trying to say? The second one is demonstrating competence in comprehension. Use the right terms, concepts, and language that is specific to the area of study. Each subject area has got specific words or expressions that show that students understand what they are answering. So know the concepts very well and how you would explain them. And thirdly, demonstrating competence in analysis and evaluation. This calls for coherence and synthesis of the points needed to answer the question. The student needs to develop an answer plan and demonstrate how related points reach a desired conclusion. In other words, what I'm saying here is, as a student, your essay needs to be organized. There needs to be a flow of what you are saying. It should not be all over the place and difficult to make out the points that you are trying to express. There should be an organized flow in your writing. Okay. And next, I want to look at the common mistakes exhibited by students. The common ones are not understanding the question in full, misreading questions or their parts, answering only parts of the question, Sometimes students don't answer the full question because they only know the first part and they don't know the other part. Okay? So as you're selecting the questions that you're going to answer, this usually pertains to that section B, where you have to answer 3 questions. If you only know part of the answer but don't know the other part, perhaps you should look at the other questions. Maybe there are other options out there where you would know the full answer to the question. So what does answering only parts of the question mean? For example, the question is, define management and explain the functions of a manager. The student only defines management but does not explain the functions. This means that you've partly answered the question, therefore you cannot get the full marks of that question, of that answer. Inability to explain relationships between concepts. The example here is, what is the relationship between motivation and job design? If you've been going through your work, you know that when an organization implements various job designs, that leads to motivation. For example, job enlargement. If a person only does one job all the time, they may get bored. So when that job is enlarged, where other activities where the person is given other activities, that may motivate that person because now they are doing more than they were doing. Things like job rotation also motivates employees because they can work in different departments and can develop skills. Job enrichment, which just talks about enriching your job through delegation. Your supervisor leaves for the day or for half a day to attend a meeting, assigns you to do a particular task. Your job is being enriched, and that leads to motivation. So those are a few examples that can come up when you're relating motivation to job design. Okay? Inability to explain how a concept can be used in practice or real life. When we look at some of the topics that are discussed in Principles of Management, we look at the SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that organizations need to analyze in terms of attaining competitive advantage. So you may know what the acronym means, but do you know how to analyze it and apply it to a real-life situation? Currently, depending on what industry you are in and the current times that we're in of the COVID-19, what are some of the opportunities and threats that various organizations are going through? This is one way that you would apply such an analysis to a real-life situation. Confusing some concepts for others due to poor understanding of the same. Example, role of a manager versus functions of a manager. These are two different things, they're not the same. Failure to provide solutions to managerial business problems or dilemmas, which are usually found in scenario questions. A scenario is given, you need to find a solution. These are some of the mistakes that students make. Mixing up. For example, when asked to explain the functions of a manager, a student ends up explaining the roles of a manager. Again, there's that confusion there, where a student might think what I'm being asked is one and the same thing. Functions of a manager, roles of a manager, perhaps they're the same thing, or perhaps the student doesn't just understand that these are two different roles that are being played out. Answering by stating what something is not. For example, the question may read, explain democratic style of leadership. The student answers by stating, it is not autocratic. Here, the student would not have answered the question. The student needs to define or describe democratic style of leadership. In this case, the question did not answer what it is. Instead, the student answered what it's not. Therefore, don't expect to get any marks from that. Then there's a term called waffling. where a student is just writing something and going around the circles without answering exactly what is being asked. This is mostly seen in questions such as explain 4 internal triggers of change in an organization. This situation also occurs when students don't know the answer to the question, but somehow they've picked that as something that as a question they'll answer, and they just go around the circles without actually answering. Finally, failure to distinguish between theories. You may be asked to differentiate the McGregor, Herzberg, Maslow, etc., the different theories of motivation. Do you know them? Are you able to explain what the difference is? What is the difference between Maslow's theory and the Herzberg theory? So this comes in by you studying the entire syllabus and knowing that there are various motivational theories. This theory said this, but this one said this. This one said this. This one agreed with what the other one said, but added some extra points to his theory. I'm now talking about general mistakes that students make, which include highlighting the full page or textbook. As a student is reading, they are reading with a highlighter where they're highlighting everything that they are reading. But the downside to that is you end up not remembering anything. You should only highlight the key things, the key points, so that even when you go back to your textbook, as you flip through, doing your revision, those key things that you highlighted will be able to come to mind. The multitasker, again, this is just doing work for different classes, switching back and forth between projects, which will not enhance or give you that kind of quality revision that you need because you are switching between different things. This is common during finals. The media frenzy, texting friends, WhatsApp messages coming up, you're studying in an area where there's loud music. You will not concentrate. Turn your phone off, turn the music off. But sometimes people study with loud music. Again, it depends on your personality. But you need to ensure that not everything is going on at the same time because you'll be disturbed. The solo mission, only ever studying when in solitude and refuse to ask anyone for help. As students, you need help. You need help in all those areas that you may not have really mastered the concepts. Get together with other students taking the same subject and go over the concepts and have a clear understanding. Poor handwriting, spellings, grammar is another common mistake, especially with the handwriting. This takes away from your work as the examiner is marking, because it's very difficult to read something that has been written that is not legible. I'm now talking about examination techniques, tips for the last 24 hours before the exam. Okay? Number one, I'm saying don't be tired. If you have to stay up all night to do last-minute revision, you've already failed. It doesn't work. You end up so tired in the exam, you can't work anything out. So this just means give yourself that time to rest. Don't stay up to do last-minute revisions. Secondly, eat some proteins before long exams, not carbohydrates. Eat properly if you want your brain to work at its best. Sugary foods or some type of energy drink just before exams will work for the first hour or so, but by the end of the 3-hour exams, you'll be completely run out of energy. You need some food that will slowly release energy. So again, here it's just saying those sugary drinks, like maybe a Coca-Cola or something, it gives you that energy right away. But as you go on, that energy may begin to run out and you'll start feeling tired in the exam. Get the important facts into short-term memory. in the last 24 hours, it's too late to try and understand anything new. What you can do is pack some facts into short-term memory. This is the time to go through the notes, looking at those key points sections. 4, exercise. Get the blood pumping around. In the last couple of hours, go for a run or work out in the gym. Studies have shown that the most creative periods come after a period of exercise, and that the benefits of taking exercise can last for up to 2 hours. Exams are not just about memory. You'll need your brain to be in top working condition. Number 5, get a good night's rest. Number 6, take a bottle of water in with you. Sip it slowly throughout. It's a good way of remaining calm in the examination. Okay? Also, you can get through a lot of nervous sweat during a hard exam. Your body will work better if you replace it. So as you are working your exam, writing your exams, your essays, and so on, keep yourself hydrated. There is research that suggests that this can make a significant difference to your grades. We've seen situations where students are writing exams and the student will lift up his or her hand, asking the invigilator to come forward, saying, "Please, I need water." So this just goes to say that water helps. It helps even to calm your nerves.
Take your career prospects to the next level with Zika.
Our diploma in accountancy is an essential qualification if you're planning on entering the accounting profession.
The Zika tax program at both certificate and diploma level equips you with an enhanced understanding of the field of taxation.
Our diploma in public sector financial management is ideal for accountants or trainee accountants working in the public sector.
And CA Zambia, a respected designation designed to ensure that graduates are highly trained to hold senior positions in the workplace.
You can study through flexible options like self-study, as well as part-time or full-time through our accredited tuition providers.
Zika sponsors the top CA Zambia graduate to the One Young World Summit for Young Leaders and also offers scholarships to the top university accountancy graduates from recognized universities.
Visit zika.co.zm now for more information or find us on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Don't delay, your future awaits.
So examination techniques, preparing for the actual exam. Number 1, revise actively. Studying and preparing is vital to success in exams. The more your brain can engage in the revision, the more you will remember. Ensure to go through your study manual and revision kit, making sure that you have adequately covered the whole syllabus. Don't just read. Extract key points and write them down yourself somewhere. Make some flashcards. Even if you're just copying them out, this is better than just reading, since more of your brain is involved. Make up quizzes, practice questions, and do them. Get active. This is just emphasizing the point of active reading or active studying, where you jot down key notes on a piece of paper, on some flashcards that you can make on your own at home, of key things that may likely come on the examinations. Having them separately, writing them in your own handwriting separately, will help you to understand them better. In regards to the essay portion of your exams, think about what kinds of themes might be asked and make some possible outlines. For example, a topic on the role of managers and their functions. In a course like Principles of Management, it's most likely that a question will come up on the role of managers and their functions. There may be a topic on organization structure and design, leadership theories, role of human resource management, etc. These are key themes that you should know very well. Secondly, do past papers, as many as you can lay your hands on. Papers from previous years are typically stored in the library. Work through them. If you can't do a question, check that it is still in the syllabus. With a good revision plan, you should be doing nothing in the last week before the exams except working through exam papers and example sheets, making sure you can do them. This is critical to examination success. Anyone who doesn't work through past papers has very little chance of doing well in the exam. Okay? So the past papers here are allowing you to have an idea of possible questions that may come in your examinations. If such a question came, how would I tackle it? So you run through them, you practice through them. It gives you a better positioning in terms of successfully passing your exams. Try to do past papers against the clock. Set your time. Behave as though you are in the examination room. Time is short in an exam. You need to get used to thinking and writing quickly. Get your hand trained so that it can write fast, but legibly, please. Okay? So as you are studying, as you are revising, as you're doing past papers, do it against that 3-hour time that the real examination is based on. And then thirdly, go for tuition. If possible, students are encouraged to seek tuition services, preferably from the Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants accredited centers. The staff providing tuition have been accredited by the Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants to provide such services to students. We come to the examination itself. Number one, I'm talking about planning how to tackle the examination. The first thing to do is read over carefully the entire examination paper. Spend a good 10 minutes reading before you write anything. In this time, work out which questions you are going to answer, which order you are going to answer them in, and plan your time in the exam. How much time are you going to spend answering each question? Don't be tempted to do a question on subject X just because it's the subject you know most about. Are you sure you can do it? Which parts can you do? How many marks do you think you can get on the parts of the question that you can do? You might find there is another question, much easier question on subject Y, which you might not have chosen because you found subject Y is harder, or because one part of the question was really difficult for you or looked difficult. Work out each part of the question, which question is likely to get you the most marks. Do that one. So here you're going through all the questions. Which one should I answer? Remember, most questions come with different parts, with many other parts below them. You can have the main question, or you would have the initial, maybe a scenario, something, then you would have question, then you would have A, you would have B, you have C. Are you sure you can answer all the parts A, B, and C? Evaluate the marks that are attached to each of those. If you can only answer A and B, how many marks will be attached to those? Look at the other questions. What about the other questions? Are you able to answer all parts? So you're doing all this evaluation and then finally arriving and selecting which questions you can answer and which ones will give you the most marks. Reading the whole question is also important because many questions lead you through a problem. There might be clues in later parts of the question about what the examiner is expecting. Make sure that you spot them. Do not be that student who sets out to do questions that you clearly don't have the first clue on how to do. We've seen this as examiners. You are marking a script and you are thinking, why did this person answer this question when they don't know anything about it? Okay? Surely there would be another question on the paper that you could have gotten a few marks on, at least. Make a rough answer plan, jotting down key points that come to mind and arrange them in some kind of order. This may take some minutes, but will help in presenting a satisfactory and orderly answer. Because once your points are jotted down, you are now expanding them as you are writing your essay. It will be easier. and it would be more orderly and presentable. When working out timescales, try to balance the time spent on a part of the question against the marks you will achieve. For example, a question is worth 2 marks or 5 marks, let's say. But a student goes on and writes 2 pages or 2.5 pages for a 5-mark question. You would have really unnecessarily spent a lot of time that you could have dedicated to another question. A 5-mark question is not worth you writing 1 whole page or a page and a half or 2 pages. So you need to balance that with the marks that you are going to get. Plan time accordingly. Remember, exam questions are not about writing down everything you know about a topic. If you do this, you will almost certainly run out of time. You are trying to get the best mark you can on the whole paper, not just on a question you happen to be doing at that time. So don't be so focused on that particular question, writing everything you know, because before you know it, you won't have time to tackle the other questions. Secondly, I would like to discuss doing the easiest question first. There is absolutely no reason to do the questions in order that they are printed on the exam. It is recommended that you do the easiest ones first. There are 2 reasons for this. Firstly, getting one question safely under your belt at the start of an exam is a wonderful boost to your confidence and can help reduce any feelings of panic that might arise when looking at the harder questions. The second reason is that the easiest question is likely to take less time than the average. This means you'll be ahead of your schedule from the start. Another confidence booster. It also means that when you get round to the most difficult question, you are free to spend all the time you have left on it without having to drop it halfway through and come back to it later. If time permits, not a good idea if it can be avoided. So really what it's saying here is getting to the easiest questions first, tackling those first, which will give you more confidence to handle the harder questions later. Number 3, look at the marking schemes. There's a lot of useful material there. If there are 4 marks available for the description of X, then the marking scheme will probably have 4 key points. Mention them all and you'll get the marks. Don't spend half an hour writing a long essay for 2 marks. People still do that. It's a waste of time, better spent on other points of the question. Fourthly, definition of key examination terms. It is always beneficial to define the terms, because defining the terms will then help you to tackle the remainder of the question, because you've started out from a point of knowing what that term means. Being concise and relevant. Again, not just going all over the place. Be concise, be logical in your presentation of the answer. Your essay should not have a lot of unnecessary, irrelevant information, but must address the question in all of its parts. Number 6, don't get stuck, move on. Avoid writer's block. Simply saying sometimes you're just blank. You knew that thing before getting into the examination room, now you really don't know it, you've just gone blank. Often known as writer's block. You don't know what to say next at that particular time. The ideas may come later. You haven't got time for it. If you get stuck on a question, move on. Start doing another question. Starting at a question you don't know how to answer is a waste of time. And you would be amazed how often when coming back to the question after half an hour, it suddenly becomes clear. So if you've already started, but somehow you've gone blank, you can't remember other parts, don't stay there where you are. Move on to the next question. Because later on when you have time, these ideas will come back to you. Oh yeah, how could I have forgotten that? And you'll add that point to the unfinished essay. Number 7, if you're running out of time, suppose you have got time left to do one question, but 2 questions are left to do. Which one do you choose? The way to maximize your marks is do the first half of both of them. You gain marks faster at the start of the question than at the end. If you don't have time to write sentences, but you do know what to do, then just write bullet points. Okay? Rather than leave one question and answer, you just focus on this one depending on the time. For both, at least do half and half of the answer, and you can do bullet points. 8, never leave an exam early. The only possible excuse for this is when you are absolutely sure that you have got 100%, and that should never happen. There is always something you can do to improve your paper. Check and check again. This is the opportunity to add more explanations wherever necessary. Again, the common examination instruction words that examiners usually use would be words like define, describe, explain, compare, contrast. So when you are comparing, for example, you are bringing the items side by side, showing their similarities or showing their differences. For example, compare the SWOT analysis and the PESTEL analysis. You are side by side, you are comparing, looking at similarities, looking at differences. Okay. I'd now like to show a sample compulsory multiple choice question. The question here says, A or an is a group of people working together in a structured and coordinated fashion to achieve a set of goals. So we have 4 options here. Am I talking about a company, an organization, a committee, a business? For example, is the answer here a committee is a group of people working together in a structured and coordinated fashion to achieve a set of goals? The answer is not that. You have to look through the answers, reflect on what you know of what a company is, what an organization is, what a committee is, what a business is in order to arrive at your answer. So in looking at this sample question, we know that a company is an entity engaging in business such as a proprietorship, partnership, or corporation. An organization is a group of people who work together in an organized way for a shared purpose, or an organization is a social unit of people that is structured and managed to meet a need or pursue collective goals. A committee is a group of people appointed for a specific function by a larger group, and typically consisting of members of that group. A business is an activity making one's living or making money by producing or buying and selling products such as goods and services. So in a quick review of these definitions, we can see that the most appropriate answer here is an organization. Therefore, when we look back at the question and having evaluated possible answers, we can conclude that the correct answer here is B. A quick look at this as a sample essay question. This is a question that is a 1, 2, 3. The first part saying, what is management? It has 5 marks. Remember, the marks will determine the quantity of what you write as your answer to management. This is basic, a 5-mark question, one paragraph would suffice. The next, explain the difference between management and leadership. Again, this is that side-by-side situation where you're trying to bring out what the differences are between management and leadership. Again, you can see that it's 5 marks for this question too. Therefore, bring out the differences, but don't spend too much time, 1.5 pages, 2 pages, just to answer that. The third question is, discuss the functions of management. It carries 10 marks. Already, you can see that the first 2 had 5 marks each. The third question has 10 marks. The 3 questions add up to 20 marks, which is the total marks for this particular question. Okay. So for the 10-mark question, you know that it carries more marks, therefore you should spend a little bit more time on it. So you would explain what management is in the first one, you would explain the differences in the second one, what is the difference between management and leadership. For example, management is the process of deciding what gets done. and getting it done through the effective use of resources, whereas leadership, on the other hand, is the ability to influence people toward the attainment of goals. Then the third question that talked about functions of management. We know that functions of management include planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. So because it's a 10-mark question, you will not just list them as planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. You will have to beef these up by adding more content. What is planning? What is organizing? What is leading? What is controlling? This is what is going to get you the full marks. So detailed notes are required for each of the functions to get you the full marks. We've now come to the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, you need clarification, please get in touch with the Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants, who are available to answer any questions or give any clarifications regarding this presentation on DA7 Principles of Management. Thank you.